Water. It's everywhere. We drink it, we bathe with it, we cook with it. Coffee's made with water. Toilets won't flush without it. It's used for washing clothes, dishes, utensils, pots, pans, floors, and our teeth. Plants and crops need water, animals drink it, and fish need it too. And don't forget, we can have a lot of fun in the water. Water. What will we do without it?
Hello and welcome to another edition of Real Thoughts and Conversation. My name is Leon Thomas. I'm your host for Real Thoughts and Conversation, the show where we talk about pressing issues that are in the news, pressing issues that are social topics. We do it right here on Real Thoughts Conversations, and we do it in a way that's civil, so everyone's heard, everyone gets an opportunity to talk. We do it right here on Real Thoughts and Conversation. Let's talk about it. I'm Leon Thomas. Welcome again to Real Thoughts and Conversation. This is a special Thursday edition of Real Thoughts and Conversations. Usually, we're here wherever you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and soon to be on Twitter. We're usually here Wednesdays, but we have a special show tonight, Thursday night edition of Real Thoughts and Conversation. If you would like to be a panelist on a future edition of Real Thoughts and Conversation, send me an email. My name is Leon Thomas. The email address is leonthetrainer@gmail.com. That's leonthetrainer@gmail.com. Tonight, we have a great panel, and we also have a really hot topic that we're going to talk about. The topic tonight, I'll just label it All Things Gruden, talking about former Las Vegas Raiders coach Jon Gruden, who resigned on Monday because of emails that he made that had homophobic and misogynistic comments. We're going to talk about it right here. Now, let's bring in our panel. Folks, when I call you out, just go ahead and tell us your name and tell us some things about you and introduce yourself to everyone that's here. Let's start with you, Cole. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Cole Brennan. I'm a Robert Morris University freshman. I'm a sport management major and also in the business program too.
All right. Cole, great. Thank you for being a guest panelist on Real Thoughts and Conversation. Let's go to Sacha.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. My name is Sacha Thompson. I am a diversity coach and consultant. I am the founder of The Equity Equation, which is a diversity coaching and consulting firm in the Washington, D.C. area. And really looking forward to this conversation tonight.
All right, great, Sacha. It's great to have you here on Real Thoughts and Conversations. Thanks for being here. Let's go to Chris. Hi, Chris.
Good evening, and good evening to my fellow panelists. My name is Chris Adams. I am in the hospitality industry based out of Boca Raton, Florida. I've enjoyed 25 plus year career in hospitality, and also work with a small public relations firm, and we do a lot of work to brand, rebrand, and help individuals to be the best versions of themselves.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for being a guest on Real Thoughts and Conversations. Tamar, go ahead. Tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Tamar Wertz. I am a senior here at Centenary University. I am in the business program, also a sports management major. So if you have any jobs out there, I'm ready. I'm graduating in May and I'm ready to start working. I'm actually currently running and hosting our 11th annual sports management conference this year as well.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Nick, it's great to have you. Go ahead. Tell us about yourself.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm actually a freelance writer, mostly for business publications. I'm based in Ocala, Florida, which is sports country. And I actually was a sports reporter for Bloomberg News, covering the NFL for 5 years. And I covered John Gruden from a distance. I was not a beat writer for the Bucs, but I did cover John Gruden, and very happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, great. So you see, we have a fairly diverse panel where we're going to talk about John Gruden. Sacha, let's start with you. So John Gruden coached the Tampa Bay Buccaneers some time ago, and then he went to work for ESPN, and now most recently coached the LA Raiders. I'm sorry, the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, they moved.
All right, and then on Monday, he resigns. And what were your thoughts about what happened and his resignation and all? What's your take on this? What are your feelings?
So it's interesting. I actually did a LinkedIn post about this because I'm a huge football fan. I'm a huge Baltimore Ravens fan, and the news came in during the Ravens game on Monday night. And at first, it didn't quite hit me what was happening, because I had heard there was something about email. There was something about some racial issues that it had surfaced in the emails, but then more started coming out. And as I started to kind of put my work hat on and think about what was really happening, I couldn't help but think about who are the John Grudens that are in every organization in the world, right? In America. And so those were some of the things that I thought about, because there was something about the years of emails that said, this is okay. Like, there was no accountability. There was no stopping. It was a part of the culture that no one said anything about. And so that led me to think about who could speak up, or if anyone did speak up, would they be heard? Would they be listened to? Right. So it goes back into psychological safety. It goes into power dynamics. There was just so much to unpack in what transpired. And so for me, it really was, how was this a lesson? Yes, he resigned, right? Excuse me. But there were so many other people that were a part of that we're not hearing anything about. And so is he being scapegoated? And again, what does that say about the culture of the NFL, about, sports in general? And so, so those were some of the things that were just kind of going through my head on Monday night, and the fact that the Ravens won that game.
Yeah. Now, I'm a Ravens fan also, and you talked about Monday night. We produce a sports show for a college student in Florida. She's a student at Warner University. Her name is Jasmine Pollock, and we did the show starting Monday at 8:30. And about 2 minutes after we closed the show, after we went off air, I went into the family room, and that's where I heard that Gruden had resigned. And so my first thought was, from a production perspective, was, man, if we'd have just stayed on another 3 minutes, we could have had the big break, of course, right? And then, you start thinking, as you did, the business things. So, Chris, let's talk with you. What were your thoughts when you heard about this?
Frankly, my initial thought was there didn't seem to be much in the way of surprise when this came out. And I think the greater issue here is, how many other instances are we going to see where individuals, have written things from their heart, who have articulated, how they actually feel as an individual. And I think that, it's a sad state of affairs. It's not just him. I think, he is in the news now and he's having to deal with the consequences of his actions. But I think it runs much deeper than just this situation. And I think that, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised that this has come back into the limelight, because I just think that, we are missing opportunities to confront uncomfortable situations and uncomfortable instances. So, if anything good can come out of this, perhaps, we can have some honest, some consistent, and some uncomfortable dialogue as far as, what needs to happen, to change the hearts and minds of individuals. He did the right thing by resigning, but frankly, I don't think he really had a choice. And so hopefully, there will be an opportunity for him to, look within and figure out what he needs to do as a human being, moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nick, let's talk with you for a second. Now, Nick, you read Sacha's post as I did on LinkedIn, and I responded to a comment that you made. Tell everyone about that interaction that we had, I guess, early this morning. And that's how we kind of met each other. Go ahead and share with that and your thoughts on it.
Yeah, Sacha had made a very insightful comment, a post, and I definitely respect everything she said. And, one thing that stood out to me about what she just said here, though, was she said, we'd like to find the John Grudens in every organization. And I think it's important to keep a broad view of what that means. Here is a guy who famously woke up at 3:40 every morning when he was a coach and would put in Herculean days. He was known as a real grinder, the kind of guy who you would love to have in the trenches next to you, a great leader who was really doing everything he could to prepare his team for victory every week, which is what the league is about. And notably, the complaints were not coming from the Black Las Vegas Raiders players. They were not coming from the Carl Nassib, who is the only openly gay NFL player. None of these complaints were coming from the people who actually have to work with him and are dependent upon him to be fair every day. These were all complaints that were coming from social media or outside, and they were about really name calling. If you really had to describe what he was doing, it was name calling to a private, in a private conversation with a friend. And I just wonder how many of us here would voluntarily publish 10 years of our private communications, and so that the world could pick over them. Do we really think on our worst days, on the days where we're most frustrated, on the days where we're having the hardest time, would there really be nothing that would disqualify us from further employment? And if I could just make one last point, I actually don't agree with the previous comment that the only thing he could do was resign. What I would like to see happen here is, this is America, this is a democracy. We believe in voting on things. Why not have a vote of the players? Why not? There are many, many Black players on the team. There is the only openly gay player. Let them all talk about this in private and let them take a vote. If John Gruden is their guy, if he's the guy they want to rally behind, let them decide. Who are we to decide based just purely on private conversations? That's my thought.
Okay. Now we're going to give Chris and Sacha an opportunity to respond to those later after we hear from Tamar and Cole. Now, Nick, one of the things that I heard on 105.7 The Fan, one of the sports talk show stations in Baltimore near where I live, one of the things that they talked about was, why did he do it through his email? Why wasn't this a phone call? That way no one knows about it, as if to say, well, it was okay to do, kind of not okay to do, but he shouldn't have done it through that medium. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think that's sad, though, isn't it? That the conversation is more, why did he choose to be honest in a way that would last, that would endure, rather than in a way that would be fleeting and forgotten? And I think that's sad, isn't it? Yeah. And I just think we should want a guy, a passionate person like John Gruden on our team, someone who's willing to work that hard. We should want them on our team,
All right. Tamar, let's talk with you. A university student at Centenary University in New Jersey. Tamar, when you heard about this on Monday and you're a sport management major, I'd like you to comment on two levels. First, what did you think about what went on? And secondly, what about your classmates and in any of your courses, any of your professors? Did you talk about this in your sport management and other classes? And also, again, what were your thoughts about this whole thing?
Well, thank you for having me on the show. When I first heard about it, we brought it up in class, and my professor, Professor David Perricone, had told us what would we do in Roger Goodell's position. And when coming to answer that question, I raised my hand and I said he originally should just be fined, because this was before we understood all the rest of the emails. This is just about the first email, 2011. And so after saying that, I had another classmate speak up and say that nothing should happen because it was over 10 years ago. But then that came into a later debate, which he contradicted himself, because Perricone said, well, what if it happened yesterday? He said it would still be okay. And that turned into a whole other thing. But when it came to my personal viewpoints on it, I just thought that although it was name calling, the position that he's in as an NFL analyst prior to being an NFL coach, it was one of those things one of those positions that even though you have personal opinions, that should stay a personal matter. When you bring it onto emails regarding the previous Washington football team owner, it becomes a bigger deal. Now it becomes more so it is allowed for the public to see, because you're in that limelight, you're in that spotlight. And so when I saw that, I immediately thought, this is bad. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think he deserves a fine. And then come Monday night, we realized that all the emails from relating back to 2011 all the way up to 2018, or 2010 all the way up to 2018, and now you have a list of emails like that, now becomes a bigger deal, because he has openly gay players on his team. And so to sit there and make such comments and then wait for it to come out and then apologize on it, it just made it seem like it wasn't a sincere apology. I know that Nick mentioned that Carl Nassib, the first gay guy on his team that he had to coach, he had to take a personal day Wednesday. And he said that the team fully supports him, but he had to take a personal day because of such comments. So we don't know if his team, although they say they fully support him, we don't know what his team thinks about it, because these are things now in this generation that people have to face, especially these players. And to media, they don't want to turn their back on their coaches, but they could truly be feeling some type of way. And I feel like, and I agree that the only thing that he could have done was resign in his position, because no apology. If it was one email, maybe, but the whole list of emails, there's just no apology would come back from in this generation.
Okay. All right. Good. Cole, freshman at Robert Morris University near Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. What's your take on this, and what did y'all discuss, if you did discuss it in any of your classes? Let's hear from you.
Yeah. So today, I actually found about the show. It really hasn't been a main focal point in my sport management class. I'm in an introductory class to sport management, but my take on this whole situation is how bad this looks for the Raiders. I personally believe, and this is just my opinion, that Mark Davis, the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, probably said, I'm either going to fire you or you're going to have to resign. And I think that John Gruden just decided to resign. That's just my personal opinion. That probably could have happened, but who knows? The only people that do know is Mark Davis and John Gruden. Also, a couple other things. I also heard that John Gruden made some comments about the NFL's concussion protocol. Why he would say that, I don't know, because the NFL has been in a lot of legal battles with former players that had CTE and had some brain damage from playing. So that just wasn't smart on John Gruden to say that. I thought the comments he made were disgusting. I didn't like them at all. My personal opinion, I also saw that EA, Madden NFL 22, has gotten rid of him on the game. Obviously, like he did resign. But, from what I never really thought he was that great of a football coach. But, it's like you just can't do that stuff nowadays. You can't do that stuff at all. It's inappropriate.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. Dr. J, could you bring everyone on the screen, please? And let's have a round robin discussion now. So, Nick, in your comments, you mentioned that you disagreed with something that Chris said, and I think maybe that's something Sacha said. So, Chris, Nick, go ahead, talk to each other here. Nick, what was it you disagreed with? Something that Chris said. I can't remember exactly what it was. Do you remember?
Chris had said that he thought the only possible course of action was for him to resign. And like I said, I just would have let the players decide this. I mean, they're the ones who have to work in this environment. If they have legitimate complaints about the working environment that they're in, that's something to take seriously. But one thing that Cole just said was, you just can't do this type of thing nowadays. Well, this wasn't done nowadays. It was done partially a decade ago, and I think that does matter. But anyway, please, Chris, go ahead.
So
I just read Sacha's post on LinkedIn, and frankly, I think it's spot on. I think when you're in a position of leadership, you've got to have a level of credibility, and I get it. It was 10 years ago. But you have to have a level of credibility. And when you lose the locker room, or if you have, as somebody said, have done things that potentially make individuals feel a certain kind of way, I think action does need to be taken. Am I saying that he'll never get a chance to get another head coaching job? I think this world is a world of second chances, of restoring once someone's had a chance to process and heal and try to come out of a situation that they may or may not have caused. And so I believe he may get another chance, but I think that in this situation, what he said, what he wrote, I think was from his heart. And I think when you're leading a team, you lose credibility, and people are not going to pay attention to what he's having to say right now. They're going to be focused on this.
Mm-hmm. Well, Sacha, tell us what you think about the idea of the team voting on that, and also some of the other dynamics that may be going on. You're a professional in the idea of equity and diversity and inclusion. What are some things that, first, what are your thoughts on the team voting? And secondly, what are some of the dynamics that might be going on within the team itself?
I take what Nick said to heart, in that this did happen 10 years ago. And so having the team vote on it now may not seem like it may not be the right thing, right? Because it's almost retroactive in what has happened. I think the challenge comes in is you are in a leadership position, right? Actions speak louder than words. And so he could be saying all the right things in the locker room, but that impact of what he is saying speaks to those that are the most marginalized, right? The fact that a player had to take the day off because of this speaks to impact, right? Versus intent. And so I think those are the things that need to come into play. I think there was also something in one of the emails around women being officials, right? And his thoughts on that. And women shouldn't be a part of the game, right? And I'm talking to you as somebody that's a huge football fan and could probably out-talk any man on football. But I think, again, it shows who he is, right? He could say whatever he wants to say. It's the actions. It's in those emails. The fact that they were documented in email. It's a business. If you're going to have a private conversation, I think that that's a phone call, a text, not even a text message, because that stuff doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So now we're talking about, okay, this is the generational differences that we're talking about, because folks know, oh, I'm not going to put that in email, or if I'm going to put it in email, it's going to be worded in such a way that nobody is going to be able to catch me saying something that's inappropriate. Right.
Can I say
Yep.
something? I'm sorry to interrupt, so please respond to what I say. But isn't that a little bit of an exhausting way to live where, regardless of, John Gruden won the Super Bowl in 2002, I believe, which was 2003. And in 20 years or more of just incredibly hard work, the 12-hour days, building credibility, leading men, trying to achieve things, suffering heartbreaking defeats, wonderful triumphs, 20 years, and yet you're always living right on a knife's edge, one comment away, one bad email away from potentially throwing it all away. And isn't that an exhausting way to live? And I'm not defending the remarks. I'm saying that there's definitely things to be sorry for. And he did apologize. And having to resign based on this does call into the question what the value of apologizing is really, if you have to step away anyway. But I would just ask you, Sacha, because I do think your post was very insightful, and I agree with some of the things you're saying. But I would just ask you, isn't that an exhausting way to live, to know that a career of dedicated work like his is always just one comment away from being tossed away?
Yeah. I'm gonna respond, and then I see Chris and Tamar.
Yeah, we got a lot of hands. So here's what I want to do. Sasha, you go first.
You go ahead.
And we'll
Absolutely.
go to Tamar, and then we'll go to Chris. Go ahead, Sasha.
Okay, so I think there's two things in what you just said. Yes, it's exhausting. However, think about the folks that are the most marginalized when he has a position of power, knowing that that's how he thinks, right? So you have to do your job and know that you're dealing with somebody that has a position of power that thinks about you in that way, that won't say it.
But nobody's
right?
complaining about the workplace, though. And that's really what this is about. This is a private conversation between two people. He had no reason to think that this was going to get out. And if no one was complaining about the workplace, isn't that that's what's important? I'm sorry.
But how does it manifest?
Tamar, what's your take on this, Tamar?
Yeah.
Just listening to you guys talk, it's actually fantastic. But it's kind of comparable to like asking someone's kids to vote on whether or not their dad should be fired from their job. Like, obviously, you're going to have, like, their players are going to look up to him because that's what they know. He's going to show them the better sides of him while he's inside the building. That's why when it came to these private emails, it became such a big problem, because privately, if this is how you think, and publicly you're acting like, oh, I'm this good guy, I'm this good coach who cares about all my players, then it's like, are you really being true to us as a coach, and are you really being true to yourself as a leader? And so that's where the biggest problem comes from, why I believe that he should have resigned, and that's the only thing he could have did, because sometimes voting isn't really going to, and like Sacha said, it isn't going to do much, because you're looking from it as on a viewpoint as from like someone outside the locker room. But inside the locker room, there might be something totally different, where now it's like Carl Nassib taking that day off. Now he had to sit there and recuperate everything that was said in those emails that he read. So it's like he saw a whole different side of John Gruden after the emails. So we don't know what these players think. And if these players did decide to vote, how do we know that they wouldn't have voted him out anyway? And so like that was really my food for thought.
Cole, what's your take on all this?
So I just want to bring something up that Nick said about players voting, and this is just my opinion. Players' job is to not vote and pick who their head coach is. That is up to the front office, the president of the organization, the general managers, and everybody else on the football operations side. I really do not. I don't like the idea of players picking coaches. I totally disagree with that respectfully. A couple of other things too about with John Gruden is that the Raiders did not play a good game on Sunday. Like they just didn't. And to be honest with you, this had to have been affecting them. Like, I mean, this was a big story that broke I believe, sometime later last week. So that's my opinion. I don't. I think that this was also. This just didn't look good for the Raiders organization at all. It just didn't, and I think that this was definitely another thing like a PR move, because this gives any story like this, when disgusting comments are made, that this doesn't look good at all for the organization. And that's why I believe it was probably in John Gruden's best interests to resign as Raiders head coach, just because he definitely had to have lost the trust of players.
Okay. Chris, go ahead, Chris. We're going to go to Chris, and then we're going to take a short break. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I think, once again, we all make mistakes. We all have said and done things that I'm sure in retrospect we would like to take back. But at the end of the day, it does come down to when you are a leader, individuals look to you for leadership. They look to you to set the example, to actually, create a culture, that is fair and is just and, inclusive of everybody, no matter what their ethnicity is, what their taste, what their beliefs are. It's very difficult to look to somebody for leadership when you're questioning how they truly feel. My phrase, don't talk about it, be about it. It's one thing for him to say all the right things, but are his actions in alignment? And I think it's going to take some time for him to really be able to once again process that. And I'm not saying he's out of coaching forever. I am pretty sure at some point in time he will get another opportunity to coach. But I think right now the best thing he could have done was to resign and allow for some healing to take place.
Okay. That when we come back from break, we're going to talk about that question. Will he get another chance to coach? Folks, you're watching Real Thoughts and Conversation. I'm Leon Thomas, the host of Real Thoughts and Conversation. We're having a great discussion about all things Gruden. We're going to take a break. As we go into break, up and coming singer songwriter Matt Clark was a guest on one of our shows a couple weeks ago. Here's one of his pieces. We'll be right back. Here's Matt Clark.
I've seen that look inside of your eyes one too many times. I'm working hard to make things better. I just wanna see us together. I know it's difficult that we see so different and it shows, but I need you now, even though we're worn down. You in my arms, you're breaking my heart, 'cause you know that I lied from the start and it may cause you pain, yeah. But I'm hoping you'll give me time to change. You and I, we mean too much to walk away or give this up. So I'm praying you'll stay the night and let me hold you tight.
We're back. I'm Leon Thomas. You're watching Real Thoughts and Conversation. That was Matt Clark. Someone was been on our show, and we're trying to help promote him. If you just Google Matt Clark music, you'll find a lot of his tunes. Let's go back and have our final discussion on all things Gruden. Here's the question that I'm going to pose now, and it's going to be two questions, and I'll give everyone, say, about a minute 30 seconds to answer. Will John Gruden be back in coaching at any time, not just next year, but at any time? Will he coach again? And the second one is, what are some of the tentacles that this has in other parts of our society and in other areas of business? How will folks start looking at this? Nick, let's go to you first.
Thanks so much. Again, I really appreciate being here. I think he will coach again. I think he's just too talented and hardworking a coach. He is the type of coach that can turn a contender into a champion, as we saw in Tampa Bay. And I think his work ethic and his knowledge is just so outstanding that he deserves another chance to be a coach. Where I would caution people who are very, I would say sensitive to the language being used is I think this hurts the nation politically in a very divisive way. I consider myself a very progressive person. I donated to Senator Warren's campaign for president. And I think that we lose a lot of white voters when we have this feeling that we're always dancing on a knife's edge because of political correctness. And I feel that Donald Trump was a direct response to this feeling of political correctness smothering free speech. And the idea that a man with children, with a family who has dedicated his whole life to this would potentially lose his career over private emails that do amount to name calling. We may seek to dress it up, but that really is what we're talking about. I find very disturbing, and I think it's extremely off-putting to a large swath of the country. And I feel as a progressive voter who would like to see the Democrats continue to win elections, and as someone who has only voted for Democrats, it scares me that we put off a large portion of white America by hewing to this very politically correct mindset that puts private emails above the actual product that you're delivering.
All right. Cole, what do you think? Will John Gruden be back as a head coach in the NFL at any time? And what do you see happening in terms of where this becomes more widespread, the way we look at things like this that go on? Cole, what do you think?
So my opinion is I do not believe John Gruden will be a coach in the NFL again. Could it happen? I think it definitely could, but it's definitely going to be a little bit of time. I personally believe that, I think he should be given another shot. Like there's, you can't defend those comments. I believe. I think they were disgusting comments, but it's also with cancel culture. I mean, I think we have all said something that we regret in our past, but I think if a team wants to give him another shot, I say yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Sacha. What do you think? Will John Gruden be back on the sidelines?
Ooh, I got notes.
Where is this going deeper into other areas of our society? Go ahead.
I think he will probably end up down the line, not as a head coach, but probably as an assistant coach somewhere, because of that mentality of, but he has good talent. And so we can't waste that good talent, despite the damage that may come with that. I think, it's interesting that when I've been reading and looking at his response, he actually didn't apologize. He said he wasn't racist. He didn't have a racist bone in his body, but he never said, I'm sorry or I apologize, which I think is semantics, but I think it's important in this discussion. And then the second piece that I wrote a note that Nick said is that this is about name calling. If you are from a marginalized community and some of these names people have died behind some of these names. People have been hurt behind some of these names. And so to dismiss it as just name calling does not really take into consideration the impact that those words have, that sentiment that mentality has, and the power that those words have, right? And so I think that there is something in this. I'm not a fan of cancel culture because I do believe there's a way to help people understand the wrongs that they've done. But at the same time, I think that there is a level of accountability that needs to come into play, which I think can impact the greater community, the greater organization, which is what I'm seeing in a lot of corporations, right? It's this, let's fire the one person that's causing the mess, but not taking into consideration who all was around and what does that say about that culture, and how do you have conversation around, okay, this is not okay. This is not what an inclusive community or an environment is, and then how do we fix that, right? So I think that there's an opportunity to not fire, but to, again, it's almost this restorative justice, this restorative belonging or being aspect that could come into play that does allow for forgiveness, but there needs to be also some accountability in that as well.
All right. Thank you. Tamar, what do you think? Will John Gruden be back on the sidelines? And how does this affect society more widespread than just sports? What do you think?
So I kind of agree with Sacha in that standpoint. I think that he won't be back now, but I also think he won't be back as a head coach. Like, I agree, he's a decent coach, a winning coach even, but let's be honest, he isn't any Vince Lombardi or John Madden. So it's like he's not needed to make a franchise better. Back in 2018, when he did start to be the coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, at the time, the Oakland Raiders, but he only went 4-12, and then the year after that, he only went 7-9. So it's like you're not really losing any assets as long as you have a decent team that can take you somewhere. And so I feel as though his comments won't get him another head coach position. This is coming from the same guy who said that Eric Reed should be fired for protesting during the national anthem, and that condemned the idea to change the Washington Redskins name. This is the same guy. So if we're allowing this guy with these thoughts to be a head coach, we don't know how he could be running his organization. From the outside looking in, it may seem like it's running smooth, but he could be making personal decisions based upon his preference of what he likes and what he doesn't like, what he feels is good and what he feels is bad. And so it's just one of those things that as an NFL team, I don't think you should take that risk. Now, if someone does, then cool, that's fine. But when it comes to like stretching out into society and stuff like that, it makes it more of a difficult standpoint, because it's like, if the NFL can allow someone that thinks like this and acts like this, and we all know, like you said earlier, that there are those kind of people in these different organizations that are more low key with it. But like, if you're allowing head coaches to act like this and say things like this, what does that say about the entirety of the NFL? What does that say about the way that Roger Goodell is running this organization that everyone looks at as like for entertainment and just the spotlight, So that was my viewpoint on it.
All right. Thank you. Chris, you'll have final word here. Will John Gruden be back as an NFL coach? And how does this situation, how's it going to impact other areas of our society and business?
Let me start out by saying Coach Gruden has been a coach for 15 years. He's coached 229 games. He's won 117. He's lost 112. He has a Super Bowl. Since then, he has not won a playoff game. Those stats are facts, but they're irrelevant as it relates to this conversation. I think that the time that he needs to spend to, really reflect on what he feels, how he feels, is really much more important than if he ever coaches another game or not. The reality, in my viewpoint, is that some team will look beyond this and think that he can help them move forward. And that's the reality. So I do think that he will get another opportunity. As to when that will be, who knows? But at the end of the day, I don't think it's about his record in terms of wins and losses. I really think it's about, who he is as a person. And if you look at an individual who is your leader, can you trust him? Do you believe what they have to say, and can you follow them? And I think that, to me, is the most important question any team should ask of any leader that they are asking to run their organization.
All right, thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for being guests on the show here. Sacha, Chris, Nick, Tamar, and Cole. Thank you all for being guests here on Real Thoughts and Conversation. Dr. J, if you could bring up the entire panel, because I want to go around the room and personally give everyone a thank you. Nick, good meeting you. Thank you for being a guest on our show. Sacha, thank you.
I do want to say one thing real quick. So
Yes.
Nick did share with me the full statement. So I do want to say that he did apologize. However, that does not negate the impact of what was said in those emails.
Okay.
So
Right on. Thank
put
you.
that out there.
Good deal. Thank you. Tamar, thank you. And again, folks, Tamar is a senior. He's looking for a job. So if you want his contact information, contact me and I'll put you in touch with him as long as he promises to pay me 50% of his salary. Okay, good. We're good there. Right, so everything's working. Cole, great meeting you. Thank you for being here on the show. Chris, thank you as well. Thank you.
I truly enjoyed this conversation. I mean, I appreciated the opportunity to sit on this panel with each of you, because I think everyone brought a real unique perspective. And the great thing about the show, Leon, is that everybody is not going to always agree, and that's the beauty of having these kind of conversations.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Thank you. And I'd like to thank our producer, Dr. J, who's in the background. Thank you, Dr. J. Dr. J's up for some awards, and we're going to find out about those in late January and early February. My name's Leon Thomas. You just watched another episode of Real Thoughts and Conversation. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching our show. Tell everybody about it. Thanks for watching Real Thoughts and Conversation. Let's talk about it.